Hello there and welcome to another video of Des Illustrates. Today we are gonna take a look at the new, or actually last month's subscription box from Upcrate. This box is the January box. The theme was inks. In the box was a pad of paper from Clairefontaine. And this was a bit of a sand colored paper. So we had 10 sheets in there to work on, and the paper was 250 grams and A5, about the size of the box that it comes in. The little booklet that we get each month with this box claims that the paper is fine and rough and therefore particularly suitable for pencils and colored pencils, chalk and pastels, but that the multimedia paper is also well suited for other media and wet techniques. So the paper is not made especially for inks, so that will be interesting to see how it pans out. Of course I already know because I'm making this voiceover afterwards, but that was my first thought when I opened this paper. It does feel really sturdy, and they are right that the paper is really fine. I am not sure about the rough aspect though, but I'm glad that it isn't that rough, because that wouldn't work really well with the ink nibs that we got, and those were also included in this box. They contained a pen holder and 6 metal pen nibs. These were in 6 different sizes, and next to that we also got a pencil. This one was from Koh-i-Noor and it was a 4H pencil, so a really hard pencil. And of course we also got 3 bottles of ink. These inks were from Rohrer and Klinger. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but they are pigmented drawing inks. And if we look at the information in the little booklet, then they say the pigments are light fast and the resin binder is non-yellowing and non-aging, which means that your masterpieces will be well preserved over the centuries. So basically they are non-fading and non-yellowing, which is really nice because everything you make with them will last. And if you make art, that's always a nice aspect of art supplies. And they also state that the ink can be applied with a brush or a pen holder. We didn't get any brushes in the box, but I do have brushes, but I don't want to use them in the first time working with the box because I just want to see what the box can do. And they also state that the inks can be diluted with water, so that's also something that we are going to try out. Next to the art supplies, as always, we also get this little booklet that I already talked about. We get a sheet of stickers that I showed earlier, and the little art print of the co-captain of the box, with also on the back some more pieces of them that is like an Instagram feed. And the featured artist of this box is Calon Sardin. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm horrible with pronouncing names of any kind, but I absolutely love their art. I think the print we got is also super cute, and it is hanging on my art wall already. So yeah, I'm absolutely a fan of their art. And if you scroll back in the video, then you also see that I took some close-ups of the artwork and the Instagram feed with also their Instagram handle, so you can check them out if you want to. In this box I took things a bit different than I normally do, and I swatched the art supplies out beforehand. I did it actually the night before, or maybe even a couple of nights before that I made this video. I was just curious about the stuff in the box, and I made this video and also all the close-ups of the art supplies that we got after that I already made art with it. So yeah, the setup of this video is a bit different than my other upgrade videos, but one big advantage of this kind of setup is that I did end up making art with the box, and it's not just an unboxing video. So I think myself that is something that I actually prefer, because this way you can see more of what the box can actually do and not just what's inside the box with no further context about it. One thing that I do want to add about this box is that the inks that we got in this box were black, sepia and red, and again with the black and red scheme we already had a couple of boxes where black and red were the main colors in the box, and I would really appreciate other color schemes more in the boxes, because black and red is not something that I think is the most attractive color scheme in my opinion. I think there are always people that love that color scheme and that work with that color scheme a lot, but I do not. So when I first opened the box I was a bit disappointed that we had black, sepia and red. Then what we are seeing now on the screen are some art pieces that I did off camera also before I filmed this video. I had made some, just playing around with some watercolors that I had left on some palettes, on some scrap pieces of paper, and I wanted to add something to them, so I decided to use them with the supplies in this box, and I ended up drawing some animals on top of them, and that are the pieces that you are seeing on the screen right now. Then for this box and for this video, with only the supplies that were in this box, I sketched out one of my crested geckos with the 4H pencil that was in the box, and I kept it really light. I think the pencil can go a bit darker than this, but I didn't want it to be really dark because I wanted to be able to erase it after I did the inking. And for the ink what I did was did a bit of the sepia in a separate container, and I watered it down a bit so the color was more like sepia, because the color sepia, if you just dip your nib in that little flask that it came in, then it's almost just black, or I think it's just black. The owl that I did that you saw in the previous shot, that was done with sepia just right out of the little flask that it came in, and as you could see that one was really dark and it was almost black. For that reason I also think that it's a bit of a shame that we also had black, because the sepia, if you just did it or use it full force, then it is almost like black. So if they just contained or added sepia and they did two other colors to make a more full color schemes, then they could have had a really different feel to the colors. In the little booklet that we got with this box, we also got some more information about those inks, and part of the information was other colors that the ink came in. For example, the ink also came in white with, and that was something that I would have loved with this paper, to also have a white ink. And next to white there also are a lot of other colors over the whole of rainbow, and also a lot of earth colors, some metallic colors even. So I again would have loved a different color scheme in the box. But aside from that, I do think these inks are really nice to work with, both straight out of the flask as well as watered down. And as you can see with the nib, they work really easily in a little container, and where you add a bit of water to them, and then you can just draw with them. Because I didn't have that deep of a container, I couldn't put my nib in all the way, and that's why I couldn't make really long strokes with it. If I dipped the pen in the flask and I could do the nib all the way in the ink so that it was fully loaded, then I could make really long strokes, as you could see on the first swatch page that I showed. Some of those were done with just one dip, and that was a really long stroke. But yeah, this way in the little container, this was the only one that I had on hand myself. There wasn't anything in the box to put it in, so I had to search for something myself, and I didn't have much in the house. So that's what I came up with, and that means that I can make smaller strokes. I know you can also load the nib with a brush, but I often overload my nibs that way, and then you have big old drips on your paper, and I really didn't want that. So I preferred the smaller strokes over big old drops of water or ink on my paper. Something that I realized afterwards that I didn't try out in sketching or anything is that you can also water down the red, and I did try that in the swatching at first, and I saw that it became more of a rose, and I did like that color instead of the red, but I didn't use it in any of my pieces, and I might have to try that out going further. I was thinking about maybe doing an upgrade box video over all the boxes I got over half a year of being subscribed to Upgrade, and all the art supplies that were in those 6 boxes together, and see what I think about them as a longer subscriber and all the stuff and all the variety that you get. Please let me know below in the comments if you would be interested in watching that, in a bit like doing art with the boxes of half a year and what they all contained, and a bit of a update on my opinion on them. Something that I haven't mentioned yet about these inks are that they are no longer water soluble when they dry, so they are waterproof if they are dry, and that also means that if you mix some of the inks with water in a little palette and you use it with a brush, or you use a brush to load your nibs, if that palette doesn't close, then you will have to throw away all that ink that you didn't use, because it won't reactivate again with the water after it's totally dry. You can just wash out the dish. It isn't that the dish won't be clean anymore, but it will come out like chipped, like it stays hard. It does become all these little chipped parts, but it doesn't become ink once again, so you can't use it to draw with it anymore. That's also why I use this container and not just a palette and a brush, because this container I can close, and that way the ink will stay good for longer and you can use it again. A big advantage to this though is that the drawing that you made, once it's dry, it's completely waterproof, so you could use these inks very well together with some watercolors, for example, or some other inks. For example, my Ecoline inks that I have, I could use these to draw something out and to have a nice ink drawing, and then paint on top of them with other inks or with watercolors, and then you won't have any smudges, and the drawing will also be still really visible beneath it, because if you draw something with pencil, that often fades a bit when you draw over it with other watercolors or inks, and of course if you use watercolors or inks that are opaque, this will also fade a little, but in general they are not. And that way you can color this without having any smudges. So for that ink is really nice, and also it adds to the fact that your artwork, what you make with it, will be really durable. It won't just fade or wash out or anything. This box I found to be a really fun box, and the last box was also a really fun box, the 16, with also the water soluble markers, and that for me made it really worth it again, and also made me happy about being subscribed again, because Upcrate 15, if I have it right, was the one where we got those big chunky calligraphy markers, and that one I found really no fun. Something that I haven't talked about yet about the inks is that they come in little flasks with those little pipettes, so you can easily get them out of the flask. They each have their own built-in pipette, so when you open it up and you squeeze in the little top of the flask, then you have a whole pipette full of that ink. And those ink swatches that you see peeking out right next to the drawing right now, and that I also showed earlier in the video, I made with one single drop of that ink. That's how much color you can get out of one drop of ink. So that's a really good quality ink, and I also think that makes this box a really good quality of a box, because all the art supplies in it were really nice. I do have to say that of the ink nibs, I found two to be really nice and usable, really good nibs, and the other four I was really struggling to use on this paper. At least I haven't tried them yet on any other paper. I did on the swatch paper, that was other watercolor paper, but not on something less textured or anything, and those nibs were really scratchy. I found them to even scratch a bit of the paper themselves, but that might be just the combination of the nibs with the paper, because the other ones the two bigger ones were really nice to use. So I will be also trying those again on other papers in sketchbooks and stuff to see how those work on the other stuff. That's also something that I could add to that video that I was talking about earlier. So I might do that. Let me know things about all the other upgrade boxes that you might want to know about those that I haven't put in those videos yet. At this point I decided that I was gonna add some white to this piece, so I got one of my jelly roll pens out that I had myself. This was not included in the box, and I know I said I was gonna use only stuff out the box. I kind of forgot that I used this white pen, but like I said earlier with the inks, there was also a white ink, and I would have really preferred that one in this box, because with this paper having a dark ink and a middle toned paper and then a white ink, that would have added so much contrast to the pieces you could have made. So doing this, adding the white jelly roll, adds a lot of depth to the piece, and also it makes the piece pop more and more interesting to look at. In the end, now I look at the piece that is done, I do wish I had made the ink a bit darker at some point. That would be nice if I could get some different sizes of containers, because that way I could make different dilutions of the ink. So a darker one and a medium toned one and a really light one, and that would be a big advantage to have. But once again, they dry really fast, so I have to have containers that are kinda airtight. I'm not sure if this one is that I have right now, so it could be that by now I'm making this voiceover a good month after I made this drawing, that ink is dry in the container. I have no idea, I haven't looked at it yet, to be honest, but it does survive a good while. Well, if you have it in a palette, it will dry the same day. But yeah, a set of airtight containers to mix some different dilutions of the inks in, that would be really nice to have with these. So that will also be something that I will be looking out for. I'm not sure if there is something like that, especially for inks that you want to dilute. I've never seen it, to be honest, so I'm not sure if it's out there, or that I have to look at other containers, like maybe for medicines or kinda some kinds of glue, or I don't know. There are lots of different kinds of containers, so we'll have to hunt for some. What I'm trying to do right now is darken some of the bits of the crested gecko, because like I said, I wished I made the ink a bit darker for this one, because the paper was already toned, and I think that would have been a bit more contrast for the piece. So I'm trying right here to make it a bit darker without making the lines thicker. Right now we are done, and also almost done with this video. I had a lot of fun with this box. I must say that even though we had the water-soluble markers last month, which I really loved, I had the most fun with this box that I had with all the boxes so far. Here you can see all the pieces that I made with it, and some of these I already made off camera, like I said before, and I made them with both the, I think I all made them with sepia ink, but I'm not sure anymore. Now I'm looking at them, but if I now look at the crusted gecko, like I said before, I would have made them a bit darker. I do think the white is really nice with it. I didn't add much white to the other pieces because I already added the watercolor there. You can see in that instance I added the watercolor before, but like I said earlier, you could also add the watercolor later. That was it for this video. I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do, I hope you leave a like and that you subscribe if you haven't already. I also want to thank my Patreons very much for supporting me over there, and with that, this channel. I hope to see you all next time. Bye!